So this year, your child's gonna learn division. What are the best ways to teach it to them? Well, there's gonna be a couple things I wanna cover in this video, so be sure to check the chapters so that you know, okay, I need help rehearsing facts, which is different than practicing long division. I try to split it up for you. But let's start by just talking about the concept of division. So dividing means splitting a big group evenly, and that is almost always the first way we introduce this to kids. We give them a concrete set of objects like 50 gummy bears, and they have to divide it into equal groups of 5 or something like that. So that's kind of where you ground it. Keep in mind that division is harder for most kids than multiplication, just like subtraction can be harder for most kids than addition. It's kind of a little harder to get your brain around. The other thing is you definitely want to make sure they know multiplication first, because you're going to be really building on that when you teach division. So make sure they know their multiplication and you can just kind of layer onto that. So start with something concrete, splitting things into groups. Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. Use counters, get some things out. That will make a huge difference. Pictorially, a lot of times I like to give kids a picture of a bunch of things and they circle the groups and then they count up like how many groups they have. So that's a way you can do it pictorially. And then from there, we're gonna jump into division facts and then eventually long division. How are you going to teach the division facts and then have your kids practice it? Well, the first thing to keep in mind is that we're going to be connecting everything to multiplication. And so as much as possible, you want to mirror what you did for multiplication. So if you used a times table to help your kids with multiplication, they can use a times table for division. Whereas before they were doing like 7 times 9 and going over and finding 63. Now, when they do 63 divided by 7, they find the 63, they find the 7, and they trace back to find the 9. So if they were used to using the multiplication table to find a product, they're now using it to find a quotient. If they were using number lines to jump up, they can now use number lines to count back. If they were using an array and they were doing, 7 rows by 9 columns, okay, that's 63 objects. Now they can use an array for division. How do you do that? Well, you have 63 objects, you make rows of 7. How many columns do you have? 9. See how it works? So that really helps to just build with what you already taught them for multiplication. Most kids will think of their answers to their facts using multiplication. So if you say to them 63 divided by 7, they are going to think 7 times what gives me 63, and that's how they get the answer. There are other ways though. Some kids will use repeated subtraction. So 63 divided by 7, if you subtract 7 and over again to get to 0, how many times do you have to do that until you get to 0? And that helps you find the quotient that way. Division facts just have to be memorized, just like the multiplication facts, but then we get into long division. So long division is not really a favorite of mine. It's not really anything anyone gets excited about, but let's just talk about what it is and kind of how you should be having your kid learn to do it. So long division is just an algorithm that helps you find the answer following a repeated series of steps. And so we teach kids long division because it always gets them the answer. It's kind of long, it's easy to make mistakes, but it is still what they need to learn. So I always teach them at first, and then they're gonna need to rehearse it. One thing I would say is to be really careful of is, because the problems are long, be careful about giving too many problems when your child is in that practice phase, not the phase when they're learning, but when they're practicing. So in our house, a lot of times it's just one long division problem a day until they've mastered it. And kids will do a lot better when you just give them one problem, because they can focus for one problem and actually do it right. If you give them a page of problems, they feel so frustrated. A lot of times they rush or they skip steps, and it's just not really beneficial to anybody. So I gave the recommendation about how to rehearse long division, but what about facts? Well, if you've been following my channel, you probably know where I'm gonna go with this. Games. I definitely recommend games for when you're trying to memorize the division facts. Straight up flashcards, just having your child flip through them is probably the easiest way to practice. But I said this on my multiplication video as well. If you play flashcard war, you can really easily make a game. It's a lot more fun and your child will practice longer. How do you play flashcard war? You just use flashcards instead of the regular card deck. Whoever has the greater quotient wins both cards, and you play until one player has won all the cards. Another great one is Capture the Square, a division version. So the game board for this is super simple. It's like a typical Capture the Square game board, but it has numbers in the middle of the squares. Each player takes turns grabbing a division flashcard, and they can draw in a line next to a square that has that same quotient. And you know, when you complete the square, you've captured it. Whoever captures the most squares wins. So that's a fun one. One thing that's really great about that one is you can play it with a smaller set of division facts. Like if you just want to practice division facts with 2s, 5s, and 10s, you can still play that game even if you aren't up to all the division facts. You want to group the division facts just like you grouped multiplication facts. First, you're doing all the facts where you divide by 2, then all the facts where you divide by 5, divide by 10. From there, add in 3s and 4s, the 9s, and it's the 6s, 7s, and 8s that you do last, because those are the hardest. If you want to solidify the relationship between multiplication and division, you can also do a matching game with your child where you have sets of related facts, like 56 divided by 8 and 7 times 8. These are actually easier to just make yourself than to sort through trying to find matching facts. Trust me, I've tried. So I just grab note cards and make sets that go together. And then I set a timer, and they have to match the related facts. So it kind of solidifies that like fact family idea. One other one I wanted to throw in here that's super simple is bingo with your division facts. So you can actually have your kids create their bingo cards. It makes it even faster. So do a 5x5 bingo card with free in the middle. I'm going to show you an example here. This is in the level 4 book. So right here. And they can write in the numbers 1 through 10 and the spaces in the way that they want. And then the caller reads a division fact, and you cover spaces, and you have to get 5 in a row to win. All right, well, hopefully that helps you. You're doing a great job, and good luck with division.